Hi, I'm Izzy. Welcome back to the Gleeson First Time Buyer podcast. Our podcast is here to help you with your journey to home ownership, and in our episodes we cover everything from our fantastic optional extras range, interviews with real customers, finance advice, and everything in between. You'll be able to find our podcast on all the most common streaming services, but also on our YouTube channel, which you can find by searching the Gleeson First Time Buyer podcast. In today's episode, we're here with two of our lovely brand ambassadors, Brittany and Jake, who are here to share with us their second home buying journey. So welcome to the podcast, guys. Thank you for letting us record this in your home, Jake. If you want to introduce yourselves.
Hi, I'm Jake. I live with my partner Josh and our two cats, Mitzi and Binkles, in our two-bed Kerry.
Hi, I'm Brittany. I live in a 3-bedroom Fergus with my partner Will, my daughter and our 2 dogs.
Lovely. Both of you are part of our brand ambassador scheme. So do you want to tell our listeners a little bit why you chose to put yourselves forward for it?
I think originally I put myself forward for it because before I actually moved, I already had my home Instagram account for my previous home, and I was starting to get quite a few followers on there, and I was really enjoying kind of showing kind of my interior style and things. And before we moved, I started following the Gleeson Instagram page to kind of get a feel of how people have decorated the homes, give me some also ideas for the home I'm moving in. And I just thought it'd be a great way to meet the Gleeson community, but also kind of showcase my style and what I would do in the home.
Yeah, perfect.
Well, I just thought it'd be a really good opportunity. I followed a couple of the brand ambassadors on my personal Instagram account to get some inspiration when I bought my first house, the Tyrone. So yeah, when Gleeson put the advert out, I just thought I'd apply, and it's been a really nice thing to be part of.
Yeah, it's such a nice group of people as well. Like obviously we've spoken to a few of the other ambassadors in previous podcasts, and it's always a laugh. Like me and Liz always have a proper giggle with all the ambassadors, so it is fun. So you're currently living in your second home, and your first home was also a Gleeson home. Tell us a little bit about your home ownership journey so far and why you chose to stay with Gleeson for your second home.
Well, my partner moved in with me September last year, and I bought my first home as a solo buyer. So we always intended to buy a house together, but we were going to wait until my mortgage term had finished. But after the new year, we just reassessed the situation and decided that we could afford to move now. Yeah. So why not go for it? So I was looking on Rightmove because we were originally looking at an older house, an older property, but everything I looked at either needed a new kitchen or a new bathroom or some major work doing. And I just think there's nothing nicer than being able to choose what you want from the beginning. Yeah. So we looked at the different developments, and we found one that wasn't too far away from where we were living because obviously I didn't have much choice with my daughter's school and stuff. I had to stay pretty local. But yeah, we found the plot that we wanted. I put the house on the market. It sold within 5 days, which was really good. Wow. And yeah, that's that.
Lovely. So Jake, your story is slightly different to Brittany's. You lived in an older home before your second home, which is now the new build Gleeson. So talk us through your story and why you chose to move with Gleeson for your second home.
Yeah, before I bought my home with Gleeson's, I was in an older terraced home. Right. And I lived on my own. I got the house when I straight left for uni. Can you hear the cat?
Yeah, I can. And it actually doesn't sound like a cat. It sounds like a person impersonating
that one
a
will
cat.
definitely be Mitzi, and she'll be jealous that she's not part of the podcast because she likes attention like that. But yeah, I was in an older terraced home, and it was kind of a quick reaction move. I was finishing uni. I didn't want to go home. And I was like, I need my own place, but I didn't want to rent. Yeah. And then a couple months later, I met Josh, and we were happy there together, but we kind of wanted something that was both of ours together because I had that home and Josh wasn't on the mortgage, so he never kind of got that feeling that it was his home as well. He always still felt like he was kind of the tenant kind of there. And
so he should, because it was your home. You're the first time buying.
Yeah. And we just wanted something to kind of start again. We really fancied like a renovation project. Yeah. And as much as we liked the area we was in, we liked the home, because the house was older, there was a lot of work that needed doing to it. Yeah. Like we had in the past, we had a couple of leaks before, we had a window that needed replacing, and the biggest thing is because it was an old terraced house, we had a garden that was like absolutely ridiculous. I think it was longer than 50 metres.
Oh, wow.
So we just couldn't keep on top of it. The cats obviously loved it because the top was like a jungle. Yeah. But we just couldn't keep on top of it. And then we just put the house up for sale, and again, like Brittany, I put my house up for sale, and I think it sold within, I think mine was a bit longer, I think about 2 weeks, and it straight away
Still really
sold.
good.
We had a look around, and again, we wanted something to renovate, but then as we were looking, a lot of places that we could afford in our budget needed a lot of work doing to them. And with working full time, we both thought we're not going to have the time to put everything we want into it. And I'm that kind of person where I like things done there and then I can't be dealing with leaving things, and it bugs the hell out of me.
Yeah.
So we started looking around, and we actually looked at we're on the Carlisle Park site, and we actually looked at the site beforehand at the start, then went away and looked around, and I don't know what else, something just drawn us back to look at it.
Yeah.
And we just went from there. We felt quite lucky. We saw a house. The house was ready to move in, and we could move in a couple of weeks. So we were ready, and we decided that's where we wanted to be.
Amazing. You mentioned that you at one point was contemplating going into renting. How come you decided against renting and chose to then get your second home over renting?
I think the biggest thing, if I'm honest, was because we had that much stuff. We were like, we don't really want to move the stuff into a rented property, then have to move again. Yeah. And at the same time, looking round, the price of rent on some places is actually more than what a mortgage would be. Yeah. And we were actually quite surprised at how moving into a new build home was actually pretty much similar amount what we're paying already on an older house that I had before. Yeah. But with this house, it was a brand new build. It was a blank canvas for me to kind of, and Josh to kind of put our stamp on and everything. Yeah. And it just seemed like, I know I don't want to sound cliche, but as soon as we walked in the house, we were like, we can see ourselves living here. Yeah. We already knew exactly every room, what was going on, what wall, what we were going to, colour was going to do and everything.
Yeah. I think that is it. When you walk into a house, sometimes you just know, like you just know that that's going to be the house that you're going to have. Yeah. But so I can imagine that you've both got different stories, but also very similar with moving in now with your partners officially kind of both on the mortgage. What memories now do you have with kind of personalising it? Have you got any fun stories or fun memories of kind of maybe where, I know when your partner was just saying before that when you went away, he kind of started decorating and taking over. Have you got share some stories with us about moving into your second home?
Well, we've only been in ours a couple of months, so we moved in at the beginning of July. Working full-time, both of us, and my daughter's, obviously it's a school holiday, so she's been off. We've actually managed to get a lot done, surprisingly. Yeah. But initially, because it's our house, I did want us to sort of do it together. But as time's gone on, he's just sort of coming home and I'm like, well, I bought this paint today and I've started doing this and I'm getting on with that.
Josh is the
not really
same.
Including him in the decision making, even though I probably should. But I feel like he trusts me though, it's fine. But we've got quite a lot planned for the next couple of months, so that'll be fun. But it already feels like home, so that's really nice.
That's good.
Yeah.
So what options did you choose? So you were saying when you moved in, you got to personalise it. What options did you go for, or which was your kind of highlight of choosing the options?
Well, the main room that I wanted to put the most focus on was the kitchen. Right. So we upgraded the oven, we upgraded to a ceramic hob. We did the Princeton Indigo cupboards, and I think that was it. I can't really remember now. We had a few things here and there, like a light on the front and things like that. But yeah, the main thing, I just wanted to get the kitchen right.
Yeah. And how was kind of your journey with the sales execs going through buying your second home?
Really great. Our sales executive was so helpful. And throughout the whole process, because we had to sell at the same time as we were buying, it was so stressful.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Rather than first time, you're just sort of waiting for it to be built, aren't you, really? Yeah. But yeah, it was really stressful, and they were always like keeping us informed, and I felt like I was constantly like chasing solicitors and stuff, but they were like, honestly, it's fine, don't worry, we know these things take time. Like, they were just so helpful.
Perfect.
So yeah, we're really grateful.
Oh, that's good. What about you, Jake? Have you got any fun stories to share about your...
I probably would say Josh's was exactly the same, where at one point we moved in last summer, so we've been in just over a year now, and around, I think it was around October, November time, with work I was having to go to America for a week and a half, and I was just at work one day and I got this random call saying, you need to ring me. So I thought, oh no, what's he done? Has he broke something? So next minute I rang him and is there painsnow in the living room saying, I didn't want to wait for you, I decided I wanted this. And luckily, it is something we'd originally talked about. But at the same time, I was like, oh, I really wanted to do that myself. But I think, same with Brittany, even though we've been in a lot longer now, we've still got some bits we want to do, but we do like that feeling of doing it together, because I think decorating together also makes that home feel more of yours, because you both had kind of that personal opinion on it. You might have some things that you clash on, which I admit we've had many clashes on what things we wanted to do, and sometimes I've had to give in and let him have it, or sometimes he had to give in and let me have what I want. But it's one of the things, I think it makes the whole experience of having your home together.
Definitely. And I guess from being in your first home where it was, I feel like sometimes it does sound silly, but I totally know what you mean by when it was your first home and it was yours and your partner's kind of moved in and lived with you. It's such a different feeling than owning it together.
Yeah, I think sometimes with that older house as well, is we needed stuff doing to it, and Josh kind of had his ideas, and even though I liked him, he always felt like he had to ask permission for me to do with him, even though I was like, you've lived here for so many months, if it's something that I'm going to be happy with, go ahead and do it, you don't need permission. But I think you always have that thought in the back of your head, like, it's not my house, I can't just do what I want kind of with it.
Definitely. So as obviously the podcast is the First Time Buyer podcast, what advice would you have as very experienced second time buyers to our first time buyers looking to get on the property ladder? What advice would you give to them?
I think if I could go back, I know it's hard to say, but one thing I would say is don't stress out too much about it. Enjoy the process. Yeah. Because it's something, especially for a first time buyer, it's something you will go over again, but you'll never get that first time feeling of owning your own home. Like, even though still when we moved into this as our second home, getting the keys and moving and you still feel elated for it, but still that first experience, you just need to enjoy it. And especially like buying a new build with Gleeson's, because you've got the whole choice of choosing your options, kind of like designing the house how you want it to be. You've kind of got that free movement right from the start, which you can enjoy. Whereas I find when I was looking for other homes, you always have that thought in the back of your head, oh, we need to get this sorted, we need to get that sorted. Yeah. Whereas we found with our sales exec, which similar to Brittany, we really loved our sales exec. She were brilliant, and still now we still talk to her every now and again. Now she's been round for a coffee. She comes and checks what the progress is. We tell her she's just being nosy, but really she's lovely.
See, now she's going round to another person and being like, oh, you'll never guess what Jake and Josh have done in their home.
Probably. No,
definitely won't.
It was lovely, and like it was just nice to have that experience and have that support with you at the same time. Yeah,
definitely. Because I guess with an older home, once you've got your keys to your house and you've spoken to the estate agents, that's kind of it. The relationship's done after you've got your keys, and you don't have that kind of like constant community feel. How about living on the development? Have you what's the community feel like on your developments? Have you made friends, or what's your developments like?
Yeah, well, we're on sort of like a little off-road, and there's only 3 of us on our road, and both of our neighbours are really, really friendly. There is a little Facebook group for the estate as well, which people don't really post in that often, but everyone's always really nice and friendly. But yeah, it's just a nice area to live. I really like our development.
Oh, perfect. And where do you live? Which development do you live on?
Springfield Meadows.
That's the one in Bolsover?
Yeah.
Lovely. What about you, Jake? What do you think of your development?
It was similar aspects over here. We've met some lovely friends on the estate. We've actually had, it was last weekend, we actually had like a little gathering in our garden because we finally got the garden completed after so long. And
your garden is gorgeous, literally.
We are very happy with it. Yeah. There still needs a few more plants. I don't know if you noticed in my house, but I do like plants, so it still needs a few things there finishing off. But it was kind of like our first time to be able to have people around and have that entertainment space outdoors as well as indoors. Yeah. And a few of our neighbours from the streets came round to come and basically have the night with us. And it's the same here. We've got a Facebook group as well. And you almost get that like sense of community because like in my old house, we had a Facebook group there, but it was kind of just updates every now and again. Yeah. But in this one, I find that you actually talk to people, get to know them, and even little things. Someone will say, "Oh, I'm having people around later, so there might be a few more cars. So if you need me to move, just let me know." And little things like that, you can tell people genuinely care about each other on the estate.
Oh, that's lovely. So it's quite a hot topic at the moment with energy bills and kind of affordability, everything going up in prices. How have you kind of found it if you've been speaking to friends perhaps, or from your first home moving into a Gleeson home? How have you kind of found the energy efficiency side of your bills with a Gleeson home?
I would say since we've moved into our Gleeson home, we have actually noticed quite a big difference. In our older house, because it was an older home, especially in like the winter, we needed the heating on a lot more. And then I know it sounds weird to say, but because we were like a mid-terrace, we found, I don't know what it was, but we found like, especially in the winter again, it used to get a lot darker in the house than it did. So even like little things like having to have the lights on a lot more, our electricity bill was, I wouldn't say it was ridiculously high, but it was quite high over there.
Yeah.
But since we moved here, especially in the winter here, we've noticed that we've hardly had to have the heating on at all. In fact, sometimes we still actually have the window open in the winter because it does keep the heating quite a lot.
Yeah.
And for us, I'd probably say the biggest benefit we had from moving across as well is we'd always had in mind that we wanted electric cars. And where we were previously, we couldn't have that option because our house was like on a raised kind of area. So there was no access to like an electric charger. So here we've been actually able to get an electric charger plugged in. And even though we're charging the cars with that, our electricity bills are actually still lower than what they were at the previous house.
Oh, wow.
That is good. Now that all makes sense, because I just heard as Josh left and you said something like, is it fully charged up? And I was thinking, are you talking about his phone? But now it makes sense because you're talking about the car when he's leaving.
Yeah, we're talking about the car.
Right. What about you, Brittany?
Well, I've sort of always lived in new builds, so I don't really have that comparison. But when I initially moved out on my own with my daughter, I was worried whether I could afford to do it. So I did Google like what the typical price was and things like that.
Yeah.
But I was actually really surprised at how affordable it was once I'd moved in.
Yeah.
And even though Will's living with me now, and I'm working from home as well 2 days a week, I haven't really noticed any sort of increase. Like our bills have still stayed really affordable. And like with the heating and stuff, you only need it on for like 15, 20 minutes and the house is just boiling.
I think every ambassador's house that I've been to, I am literally like getting really hot towards the end of it.
You wouldn't believe it, but when we first came to view the house, the first thing that Josh spotted, and he were going, honestly, everyone we spoke to when we talked about the house, it was the first thing he mentioned, and it was that we could have dual control heating. Because you can have a thermostat set downstairs and have the heating off upstairs, or you can do it vice versa. And he just thought it was absolutely brilliant. And honestly, every time we went somewhere, they were like, "Oh, are you moved in yet?" Or "What house you want?" First thing he mentioned was, "We've got dual heating."
Do you know? Now that I've met him, I can actually imagine him saying that. Bless him. So that concludes our episode. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Hope you've enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, been fun.
Fab. It's been great chatting to Brittany and Jake about their second home ownership journey with Gleeson, and hopefully it's helped anyone who is listening and considering taking their next step with Gleeson. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit follow and subscribe to our YouTube and Spotify channel so you don't miss an episode.